My project is Down the Road to Leh, a journey towards conscious tourism. As the name suggests, the project briefly talks about Leh, a town which is situated in the northernmost region of the country. The thesis aims to find and understand the role of architecture in creating a balance between human development and the natural environment. As I said, the location of my site lies in the northernmost region of the country. It is a region which is surrounded by snow-cladded mountains. The mountains, being one of the highest mountains in the country, they do not allow rain clouds to hover over the region or pass through them. Therefore, Leh is called as the cold desert of the country. This region is geographically known as the rain shadow region. It rarely receives any rainfall and the climatic conditions are extreme. Here, we are talking about a landscape which is not very commonly known as fragile, but in the recent times has taken a sudden hit of tourism and climate issues. The intent of this research is to study and look at the possibility of rejuvenating the natural landscape by techniques and methods best suited for it. The growth of economy is leading to an unhealthy imbalance, thus affecting the eco-sensitive zones and overconsumption of natural resources. Over the years, lack of awareness, inadequate knowledge of the environment, excess amount of tourism is leading to a major loss of habitats of the eco-sensitive zones. The method of study is to primarily understand the aspects of Leh, what impacts these aspects while focusing on the growing tourism and understanding its pros and cons to help manage the tourist sector while also trying to conserve the ecology of the town. So you would ask, why Leh? Leh is currently one of the most touristic town in the country, but its rise started in 2009. It was featured in a movie known as Three Idiots. The region, which never had more than 30,000 tourists per year, started getting 3 lakh tourists a year. All of a sudden, the town and the nearby locations were all filled with foreigners of the land. Before this rise in tourism, the Ladakhi people were usually occupied with seasonal farming and other major chunk would join Indian army. But the sudden boom in tourism demanded a lot of new resources and the occupational priorities changed as did the fabric of the town. To fulfill the demands and requirements of tourists, rapid and haphazard development took place. And as they say, too much of anything is not good, negative repercussions started to show. The pollution of all sorts, the climatic impacts, shortage of water, change in climate, and mainly the problem of managing the sudden rise in waste generation arise. At an average, on today's date, 30,000 bottles are thrown to the landfill per day during the tourist season in Ladakh. As the city has never ever faced such an emergency considering waste generation, over the generations they had linear approach towards managing the waste. A linear approach is wherein you take the natural materials, you make the product, you use it, you dump it in the landfill forever. Whereas my intention is to propose a new approach where once the product is used, it goes to the recycling facility and not to the landfill, where it is remade using basic procedure. It is made into an usable object and resold. It is the reused it is then reused by the consumer and then sent back to the recycling facility. Basically, the product's life is increased and it does not end in the landfill after single use, which makes sure that the waste in the landfill is reduced over the years. For the same reason, I have studied the projects of Earthship. Basically, an Earthship is a building which is made out of day-to-day rejected materials such as car tires, disposable plastic bottles, aluminium cans, etc. by assigning them a novel use. Leh has rich history, being an important town for the Silk Trade route. I choose to use the traditional materials as they have a better result to tackle the extreme climate of the region and are successfully sustainable. Materials like straw bale for thermal insulation, sun-dried bricks, mud plaster, and timber. But as the project tries to take a new look and approach for sustainable living, we also use the disposed material from the landfill like glass bottle, plastic packets, tires, etc. Here on the left hand side, you see the rain shadow diagram which I have explained earlier. The intervention is designed and planned in a way where the climate is a key factor. Facade windows are put on the south side to gain maximum heat and sunlight, studying the sun path diagram. Similarly, after studying the winds from windrows diagram, I strategically place the dense trees at the front facade in the direction of strong winds such that there is no harsh or strong cold breeze or hot loo affecting the users of the building. Here, I start with the process about how I am going to treat the plastic from the landfill. The process starts with the collection of waste from different parts of the town. It is then brought to the facility and segregated into various categories. Different objects of different forms are then flattened in a flattener. Flat plastic sheets are then put in a shredder to get the fine particles. Shredded particles are sent to the melter where they get deformed in high temperature and pressure. Deformed fluid is then casted according to the required shape and size. They are set to dry once they take shape, then packed and transported to the required site. The main part is to get the process working. It is very crucial to make people aware to the system of recycling. In order to achieve this, the tool of architecture will be the key. The idea is to fuse public spaces to the industrial space, as in, make the people experience the process of recycling by giving them enough knowledge about it and treating it like an exhibit of waste management. Therefore, I have chosen a set of programs that fuse together in order to create awareness. My design proposal is strategically located on the Leh Manali National Highway and it is therefore is on the most commonly used public route by tourists as it leads to the town of Sheh, which is the second most visited town after Leh in Ladakh region. The site is approximately 2 kilometers away from the main center of Leh and is strategically placed on the route of the Bomgar dumpyard, commonly known as the Valley of Waste. Studying the most common waste materials laying down in the landfill, like plastic and glass bottles, packages, wrappers, car tires, etc., I have proposed a method of upcycling these waste materials into making them products which will be used as a construction alternative so that the linear waste management cycle will be broken and the plastic waste will be reused. Speaking of the design concept development and starting with the site boundary, the site is abutting two important roads for the project, one which leads to Sheh, a town which is another touristic town center, and the perpendicular road being the road which goes to the Bomgar landfill, commonly known as the Valley of Waste. The building is divided in three prominent zones: an inviting public zone, which gives a complete view of the industrial zone so as to exhibit the industrial part, semi-public zone being the solid waste management facility, private zone being the research and development and library. The last zone is actually the parking zone, which is abutting the roads for the easy access to tourists and also an easy entry and exit for garbage trucks such that they get to load and unload easily. Massing has been unfolded while working on the project step by step. First, the functional block came in with which came the main corridor and entry zone. Main corridor being the spine of all the project which provides transparency to throughout the project. Parking was allotted specifically as mentioned earlier and the change in levels is done according to the shift in the types of spaces. Landscape strategies were used and a temporary market space got allotted on one of the plinth levels. The entrance to the project is near to the junction of two important roads as mentioned earlier. As you enter, on your left hand side, you see the parking zone and there is a drop off point near the entrance. Once you enter the building, you come across the reception area in front of you. On the right hand side to it is the admin area. As you move forward, you can see on your left hand side is a souvenir shop where you can find local crafts and also products made inside the building. In the reception area is also the introduction area where people will be introduced to and made aware of the intention of the building. As you move forward through the corridor, on the left hand side, you come across the first block of solid waste management facility and the entire block is showcased with a large facade of glass in order to give a visual interaction between the working of the factory and the common public. On the left, one could see the whole process step by step of recycling of plastics as explained earlier. As you move ahead on the right hand side, you come across a fast food cafeteria. Also, the right hand side path goes to the spillover to the central courtyard. which I am going to talk about later. As you keep on going ahead, you come across a courtyard, and throughout the building, there's a pattern of such small courtyards as they let in light, which also gives heat to the building and become a green sitting zone. Going ahead, you see Ladakhi handicraft hands-on workshop on the right-hand side, while still seeing the solid waste management process on your left. There are various exits which lead to central spill-out courtyard in between. Moving on through the central spine, you come across the plastic brick factory on the left and plastic hands-on workshop on the right, where public could take part in actively understanding the process of solid waste management and creating small souvenirs for themselves. As you move ahead, you go into the digital video museum, come auditorium space, which gives you presentations on topics related to environment, etc. On the left, there is a staff resting room with a pantry. Moving ahead, on the right hand side is a Natural Achievements Museum based on the achievements of people who have taken effort for the environment, where you can see and learn about the life achievements. Opposite of the museum, you can see the research laboratory, two classrooms, a staff room of the research and development zone. Moving ahead, we go towards silent functions consisting of a library and the conference room. Coming to the central courtyard. The courtyard acts as a spill-out space for all the activities and has seating spaces around it. The second plinth has provisions to set up a temporary local market where local Ladakhi people could set their temporary shops and tourists could enjoy the Ladakhi objects and food, giving a scope of livelihood for the public as it becomes a market when it is needed. The third part is dense trees with sitting decks, which acts as a wind barrier for the project, and a landscaping zone where people could sit under the indigenous dense walnut and willow trees of Ladakh. The project has a back entry and parking for the staff and a separate service entry. There are two service entry points in the solid waste management facility where trucks can load or unload the respective materials. There is garbage truck factory parking zone and also bus parking zone for tourists. It also has a separate sales office with a separate service entry for the factory products. The project majorly revolves around the public movement spine, which is marked in yellow. It is designed in such a way that every activity is witnessed and the spaces are experienced by the public. Main route for the garbage trucks is marked in red. They have separate entry and exit and also loading and unloading points. Service entry is marked in blue and other colors are given for each important zone. Talking about the section AA, the section AA is cut through the plastic brick factory, the digital museum, the ecological achievement museum, the eco corridor, the library, and the conference room. Seeing in detail the plastic brick factory, it is shown the procedure of making the plastic brick is shown in detail. Moving forward, on the left you see the digital auditorium, then the main corridor, which is the spine of the building, then you see the ecological achievement museum, and in the end the eco corridor. Ahead, the section cuts through the library, the eco corridor in between again, and the conference room in the end. Moving ahead to the next section, BB, this section is cut through the main corridor, the entrance zone, the waiting and introduction zone, then cafeteria, the handicraft workshop, corridor again, and the plastic brick factory again. Moving on and seeing the main entrance zone, then the waiting lobby and tourist information center in detail. Going ahead, showing the cafeteria from the left, starting with the ecological corridor, the cafeteria, the hands-on workshop, the corridor, the main spine, then the plastic bag factory in the end. Talking about section CC, going ahead, plastic bag factory, again showing the procedure of melting and drying, the corridor, main corridor, cafeteria, ecological corridor, and the elevation of the ecological corridor. Section DD is cut through the ecological corridor, library, the main corridor, and the conference room. Further, I will be explaining a few technical details of the project. First, the Trom wall, which is a wall specifically used in places with extreme climate for the purpose of capturing and transferring heat inside the building. This Trom wall is designed differently, wherein used glass bottles acts as a facade of the wall, allowing more amount of heat to the interior wall. Next, the eco corridor. Eco corridor are used to gain maximum heat as they are placed on the southern facade of the building. They are strategically placed so that maximum heat is trapped and is gradually transmitted inside the building. The eco corridor is made out of recycled tires and also holds solar panels above it. This is a standard Ladakhi roof containing double timber beams containing a thick layer of straw for thermal insulation. The section is cut through the toilets showing the biodigester tank in which the excreta is treated with bacteria that creates grey water that can be used for landscaping and solid waste as manure. Talking about the window detail. Windows are held between double lintels. It is a double glazed window with vacuum gap in between for the purpose of trapping heat. The windows are large and allow for higher amount of heat gain along with a panoramic view. The north light truss is used in the factory to get diffuse light and avoid heat gain inside the room. This layout shows the use of different upcycled materials used in the project which are strategically placed such that they respond to the climate. The following drawing shows the water supply and drainage layout. The three toilet blocks are prominently placed towards the three ends of the building. This is the water supply calculation required for the building, required for the floating and in-house population of the building. This is the site services layout, which showing the overlaps of various services required for the building. This is the solar calculation catering the energy requirements of the project. Further moving to the views, this is the bird's eye view of the whole project. Going to the next, we see the Trom wall and the eco corridor on the left. This is a view from the Trom wall. Glass facade, glass bottles are used on the exterior of the Trom wall. This is the weekly view of the weekly market and the eco corridor. This is the internal view of the eco corridor showing vegetations and the cafe on the left. This is the view of factory, internal view of the factory showing the first process of segregation. This is the second phase of solid waste management where the plastic is flattened. This is where the plastic gets shredded. This is where plastic is molten and set to dry. And this is the view from the corridor where people get engaged into seeing the solid waste management facility. This is another bird's eye view from garden showing the garden. This is the view of weekly market. This is the view of video and seminar room. This is the view of cafeteria. Another view of the cafeteria. This is the view showing external road of the project. This is a view showing the garden deck. This is the view from the library. Another view of the library. This is the boss sit out. This is the landscape pockets which are used to get in light inside the project and are used as a pause point. A view, the view showing solar panels on the eco corridors and the tires used for the foundation. The external site view. This is the interesting view showing the heat map of the building. The south facade is gaining maximum heat light as shown in the heat map. Thank you.